we can't go 10 minutes without meaning, but we can go very long without enjoyment and satisfaction.
I'm grieved by it of why can't there just be something that's enough? I understand gratitude now as sort of the framework and the groundwork to understand myself and understand where I'm going. If I have a lack of gratitude, it's probably because I lack perspective about something. He described happiness as enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. Enjoyment being pleasure, people, and memory.
Love that.
Yeah, which I think is a fantastic definition.
Like, do you think in heaven you can grow?
Mm.
Or you think that it's like you're at a fixed point? You can't reach into the abyss of God and pull out, so you ought to cast yourself entirely into the abyss.
Welcome to the Lay Life Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Ferraro. Join us as we journey together to see the church come alive through real conversations with real people. Enjoy the episode.
So good.
Is it actually really good?
Did you have one? Did you dip it?
I feel like I got mostly foam. I feel like
you got
get coffee now.
You gotta get it in there.
These.
It's gotta be in the coffee, it can't be in the moat.
Okay, bro, we're going down. Deep in the espresso mocha realm, bro. The extra chocolate, that's what you need.
Mm.
When's the last time you were in Italy?
My sophomore fall at the Rome, met the Pope.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You heard about that story, right?
Yeah, you told me a story, the pictures. Is it weird now that, since Pope...
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. But really, isn't that kind of wild? Like, wow.
I met him a few months before he died, which is, crazy. And, I think it made it very special, and it really corrected my view of him.
Okay.
I feel like so many people talk about him in a dehumanizing way, or did, and meeting him was just whoa, he's my father. He's a real man, and he's one of the most charitable demeanors and gazes I've ever encountered.
Really?
And so it's so the Pope passed away in my heart as a loving father and not as a liberal Pope, and I'm really happy that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did you? I mean, you actually had a cooler interaction than most.
We talked for a few minutes. I held his hand the whole time.
That's wild.
It felt like holding a grandpa's hand.
Do you feel like that shifted that for you, or I don't know, what was that experience like?
Yeah, absolutely shifted it. I mean, his charity was undeniable, and I think that, and it just helped me see where he was coming from, and a lot of the things he had said. He was clearly coming from a place of charity. Different things he said, different things people didn't like. Mm-hmm. That he wasn't cracking down.
Mm-hmm.
But after meeting him, I was this is a man of charity, and maybe he went wrong in different ways by erring on the side of being too gentle. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, it wasn't from a place of malice. It was not a liberal ideology agenda. It was genuinely a loving heart. And then also being in his presence, I felt a contentment I never felt. And because I was in the center of St. Peter's Square, our home as Catholics, holding the hand of our father as Catholics, talking with him, and right behind, you're in the dead center of St. Peter's Square, so it's him and then Christ holding the cross on top of St. Peter's Basilica. Mm-hmm. And so it was just this genuine upward movement and genuine experience of everything I value.
Wow.
It's that's everything. That's literally the sum of what I value and is the Catholic faith, and I'm in the heart of it. And so I experienced a profound contentment, and then the Father really used that. I couldn't pray for weeks without that image coming up, and the Father using it as just the contentment you felt then because you knew you had everything you value is the contentment you should always feel with me, because in me you have everything you value. So yeah.
Has that reflection that you just spoke, this idea of contentment, of not just being able to intellectually put yourself there, but the actual inner experience of satisfaction, of I'm okay with my life and I'm not demanding more. And not that you can't desire more.
Yeah.
But there's not this unhealthy sort of craving or anxiety that's pushing you forward. Have you continued to live from that place? Or I guess what was that like coming off that experience and having those experiences in prayer? Because that was, like you said, how long ago was that now?
About a year. So a little under a year.
Yeah, have you been able to kind of persist in that, or I don't know, what is it?
I think it left a mark on my soul that has never left, and the Father really, it was one of those moments of grace that Teresa of Avila talks about you can always go back to, and there's more grace to be pulled from it. And so I think it continues to be that. I don't think I pull from it enough, like I should. And I think that which continues that contentment is like just a beggar orientation of heart and a humble gratitude orientation of heart, like cultivating that in my relationship with the Lord. And then it's just like you need to actually, it's so concretely clear that I'm in the presence of everything I value when I'm holding the Pope's hand, St. Peter's Square. But it is also, we just have to push a little harder for it to become concretely clear that or beg a little harder that the Father is like this all inspiring, like fully life-giving presence that can give us total contentment. Like we have to really press in to experience that, but it's more than what the Pope can give me.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know, I guess like as we kind of already begun, but as we continue just like actually praying that the Father would bless our conversation and what's happening here. So, Heavenly Father, we just praise and we thank you, Lord, that you would be glorified, that Holy Spirit, you would be honored, you would be sought here, Father, that our hearts and our minds would be attuned to your Spirit, Lord, and to what you want to discover and reveal to us today. So, Holy Spirit, I just pray that our words, our thoughts, this discussion would not be our own, but it would be yours. It would be yours entirely. So, Lord, for all those who will listen to this, just may they be touched, Lord. May they be inspired. May they be led. Most importantly, Jesus, may they be shown your face, that you are faithful and holy and beautiful and wonderful and deserving of all our love. So, Father, we just consecrate and we offer this episode to you. May you just be honored and glorified. May your truth be made known. We pray this in Jesus' name. I don't know. I know we were talking like a little bit earlier too of the Arthur Brooks talk, which we both dragged you into, made you skip class for. Anyways, the Arthur Brooks talk that I wrangled you into and made you skip class for. Was it worth it? Skipping class. I feel better now. I feel better now. But yeah, I don't know, kind of tying into what we were just speaking to of like this real experience of grounding and contentment. I know it's like he described happiness as enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. Enjoyment being pleasure, people, and memory.
Love that.
Yeah, which I think is a fantastic definition. I think it's a fantastic definition. Because it's very simple. It's all of those three things are super easy to comprehend.
Yeah.
And then those three elements really do make things that are enjoyable. Which is very, very direct connection. I don't know, I didn't write it down perfectly, but his understanding of satisfaction was something along the lines of like achieving things through hard work.
Yeah, I think it had a lot to do with purpose.
Was something like that.
Yeah.
But then his main one that was really fascinating to me, was his understanding of meaning, which it was like coherence. Basically, like, what does my life mean? Or, like, what am I made for? What am I living for? Significance, which is like a similar vein there. And I'm forgetting the third thing, but it was interesting. Like that's what I was reflecting on most. Like what actually gives forth meaning? And it's like, can we actually experience gratitude with a lack of meaning? And I don't think we can. And the reason I say that is I think we can experience gratitude in great suffering. And I think we can have perspective and appreciation even when things are really difficult. But if we don't have a higher why, if we don't have something outside of ourselves that grounds that reality to a greater purpose, I think it's crippling. Even on the side of enjoyment, like even when things are going really well, like if it's just for the sake of itself and there's not really a deeper connection.
And they'll end.
Yeah, and then you end. It's like, it's kind of fleeting. Even if you're still able to enjoy it, there's still this like anxiety that builds up of like, oh, this is gonna end, like I don't want it to end, I don't want it to end. We've all had those nights, like especially as teenagers, like I remember like high school or early college, like there's a reason, like for whatever tendencies like that are typical actions, like let's stay up till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. together.
Yeah.
Like I kind of reflect on that. It's like, oh, I don't think I wanted those things to end because there was a certain enjoyment and depth that began to happen. And it's like, let's just like keep prolonging. Which I think is also something interesting is like in terms of gratitude is understanding, like appreciating things for what they are and not like what they could be or what they could have been. And I think a part of that is realizing like the finitude, like things end. And that's hard. And I don't even, like in post-graduation, like I reflect, like even just last semester, like the guys I was living with, some of my former best friends, I feel like we really clicked. We had a really good flow in terms of our life as individuals, communally, like the mission we were working on and helping steward. And I was like, it was amazing. And it's like, frick, now it's over. That sucks. You know, there's a lot of turning and there's a lot of discovery in these past 5 months since graduating. But I think what happens is like I understand gratitude now as sort of like a framework and like a groundwork to understand myself and understand where I'm going in a couple levels. Like one is where gratitude flows most naturally, like what I'm most naturally grateful for. And I don't have to like, oh, I should be grateful, blah, 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 you know, and kind of bring myself there using my mind, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
But
I like that. You're saying gratitude points to your values. It's like
yeah. Like why do I have to not like put any effort into being so grateful of last spring semester, last season of college, living with Sean and Will and Luca and Noah, you know, school was pretty light, part-time job, a lot of time to think and pray and read, really good community time. It's because like I know myself, and I think one of the highest values for me is community and time well spent with people I love and I am inspired by and encouraged by. People that are either equally yoked or are walking in things, so maybe character traits or maybe things they've achieved that I haven't yet, that I really long to. I could. That's one of my favorite things to do, which is cool in this season. Like as like my job is getting more stable, and like even this week, it's like I literally took this week off from work.
Yeah.
Not because I was like, oh, I need a break, or well, it's like okay, like I did really well in my job this month, and so I kind of maxed out like all my bonuses and things, and so it's like it literally makes no more sense to continue to work, and which is awesome is because of the nature of my job and kind of getting to create my own calendar and stuff. It frees me to do stuff like this, which is like okay, I don't really know why I'm doing this yet, but I kind of feel like I should, and I'm like there's things that like the idea of talking one-on-one with people, sharing stories, wrestling through ideas, connecting with a larger audience, like providing a value and a vision and a framework. And I'm like, that invigorates me. Like, let me do that all day, every day.
Yeah.
But I was having a conversation literally this morning with the guy, Jacob Konkolix. He runs a practice here in Steubenville. Really cool what he's doing. He has an awesome vision.
He runs
Fiat.
Okay.
Yeah. He has this awesome vision for like holistic counseling in it, not just being mental health, but also spiritual and physical and integrating things like music and dance and the arts, and it's just really fascinating. He's just very open-minded, but also very like pointed and direct with what he's achieving. And what's super cool and we were really talking about this of kind of discovering this entrepreneurial aspect to ourselves and we were like sharing our lessons, like what we've been learning and what do we feel like is worthy of pursuit. And we kind of both came up. There's a couple things we landed on, but one I think poignant to this conversation is we landed on the idea that one of the most important assets, especially when we're young, is having time for self-knowledge, self-reflection, self-discovery. So I think it's super incredible that in this season of life, I can have a week to hopefully record a couple of these, probably do like, I could have made that better, or the edits could have been better, or this, right? And just learn a lot and really wrestle. And who cares if this goes anywhere or if any of them even get published, but just the idea of like, okay, I'm taking action and it's clarifying what I want. Because they're like sounding boards.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually hitting reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what does that feel like? What does that taste like? What does that smell like? How do I come into contact? So even like what you're naturally grateful for, like your past is always a roadmap to your future of where you want to go. So it's like as I look back over the last 5 years and sort of understanding who I am and who I've become and the experiences that I've had, like I'm just very convinced like the rest of my life needs to be about communication, connecting people, being at the forefront, like casting vision, leading. This idea of like galvanizing. There's like this like test called Working Genius.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I didn't take it, but I was talking to Will about it, and I was like, I already know that like I'm inventor, and I'm galvanizing. Like I love creating ideas and then rallying people to accomplish it.
Yeah.
But like I'm like, oh my god, this is so boring. Like the last final like carry through things like sending all the emails, like double checking, like okay, like we all ready for tomorrow. I'm like, what's really cool is like those are other people's skill sets and what they really like. They like the fall or the finish. And so it's neat. Like I'm discovering these things about myself, and I don't necessarily have like going back to what Arthur Brooks was saying about one of the deepest parts of one of those branches of meaning is coherence. Like I don't feel like I have total coherence yet. And so I think I've actually struggled with a lot of like meaning and purpose in this season. I'm just like, because I keep asking myself, I'm like, what the frick is this all for?
Yeah.
But as I continue to push on and things start making more sense, I'm like, I get more coherence and I get more meaning, which I think is really interesting because it's opened me up to a greater sense of flourishing. Like as I'm sort of niching down, as I'm subtracting rather than adding, like as I'm just simplifying life, doing less things, but doing those things well and committing more of my time and energy there, I'm actually experiencing like more coherence, which is leading to more meaning, which is leading to more happiness and gratitude, which I think is a worthy goal, actually being able to look at all of my life, everything that I'm going through, my relationships, what I do for an occupation, for a job, what I feel called to in mission, and all these correlations, and they kind of speak one message forth, and I'm just doing that all the time, every day. So I don't know. Those are like, when it comes to gratitude, like those are some of the things I've been wrestling with. Of like, what am I naturally grateful for, and that actually reveals a lot. And then where do I lack perspective? Because if I have a lack of meaning, if I have a lack of gratitude, it's probably because I lack perspective about something and what it is or what it's for.
Yeah, I think for me, that last point of like lacking perspective, a big thing I've been integrating after Arthur Book's talk is I like won't go on my phone in the morning, and I'll go on a walk and I'll just talk. I'll invite the Lord, kind of like I don't know. This is bad for disciple. The word Luke chapter. What is it? 22. What Road to Emmaus? 24.
24.
24. Yeah, like it says he drew near to them. So I'll just be like, Lord, like draw near to me. And then I'll walk and talk with him out loud. And I call it like gratitude walks because my number one focus in that time is to talk through my stuff with him, but it's also to enter into a disposition of gratitude of like for my legs, like I'm walking right now, or like for my body and for so that I feel like these things we are grateful for them. I just feel like that we're not grounded in them. We're also very disembodied. Like we live a very disembodied life. I think returning to the body is integral to spiritual and mental flourishing. And so returning to the body and embodying myself, like thank you, Father, for my feet, for my legs, for my breath, for the wind that's hitting my skin, like all these things, there is a sense of coherence. It feels like there's not a sense of coherence because of the exterior doesn't seem coherent, like as a student, you can have coherence you don't have long-term coherence, you just can't. Like you have short-term coherence at most 4 years, I'm getting my master's, so I guess you have longer, but like that's very different. And so there's a sense of like you rarely have a lot of exterior coherence, but I think Author Books is not getting at exterior coherence. I think he's getting at an interior coherence. And I think a lot of that's to do with like returning to the body and returning to the mind in a simplified manner. So I will also, when I return to my body, I return to it through gratitude. So I'm coming into contact with it in a proper relationship with it, not a pessimistic one. And then I will also like talk out loud and get the big picture from the Lord. And like what that's also doing is it's almost, if you can like it's rather than embodying, you can almost like in-minding. Like it's bringing me back into my mind in a simple way, in an objective way, in a way in which is clarified and made purer by a conversation out loud with the Lord. And so I think and then it's like there's just a plethora of things I'm grateful for, but I just wasn't in contact with them, and now I am. And so now I leave my walk, and I do have a sense of coherence, and therefore do have a sense of gratitude, and therefore do have a sense of meaning throughout my day. And I think it's easy. And then you could fall, and then there's other things that are exterior where we can have coherence. Like, I love a phrase the Lord gave me one time in prayer is like, where love begins, like finitude ends. And you were talking about finite and how like, oh, this thing's going to end, and it just like, therefore I can't enjoy it that well. But I think that if we recognize that love is man's destiny, is man's whole purpose, and we emphasize that in every contact we have with another, I think that gives a whole entire new like infinitude to our experience of reality. And it's like you might be with your roommates last year, but since there's love present, there is a sense of the infinite, and because that it's like it kind of reminds me of what C.S. Lewis says, where he says like, if you miss something very deeply, just know that you have him who was the only thing you truly delighted in that time. because it's like
Wow.
what we delighted in the past was ultimately a delight in the Lord, just exterior manifestations of him. And so it's like we still have and we can still delight in him. And so the exterior sense of coherence I find the most in love. So like I find that a lot with my girlfriend, and that's a very hopefully a long-term relationship and hopefully marriage. So it's like that's something that's like when I'm pouring into, there's a profound sense of meaning because I know this love, which is transcendently infinite, is also like hopefully gonna bear fruit in the future. It's like what we build now will be valuable in the future for us, for our kids, for our liveliness. And so I think that that's where I've been trying to find that sense of like coherence and meaning and gratitude has been pouring into first coming into contact with myself, a proper relationship with my body, my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, and then going out to love first and foremost, like finding what I can press into in regards to love. And so I think after the Lord and then my girlfriend, then it's like family and like friends, and then it can become like hobby things, guitar, reading, like running, working out, and it's like I love psychology, so psychology. But yeah, it's kind of what.
One thing I was thinking about, you were talking about it a few minutes ago, but you were saying C.S. Lewis says that like if we've missed something, it's like delight now because what you have currently, like what you delight in most is actually what you have currently, which is ultimately the Lord.
And he writes that after losing his wife.
Yeah,
which is insane.
Yeah, it's a heavy reflection to be able to speak that forth from that place. But so yeah, what do we do in those seasons of like suffering, in those seasons where things are taken away?
Yeah,
how do we actually find gratitude there?
I think that I love right now in psychology. In class, we're going over Viktor Frankl. What is this therapy? It's logotherapy, and it's all about meaning. Like the whole core of it is finding meaning. If you find your meaning, then everything else falls into place. And we're going over right now. So, and I've read his works, some of them, but I'm gonna try and not speak objectively on him. But what I'm taking from it, I mean, this is a man who went through Auschwitz, and and when he's in Auschwitz, when like there was different instances in which he's suffering deeply, someone dies around him, and like there's instances where he writes about like, I knew that the way I responded to that person dying, I would talk about in a lecture once I got out of Auschwitz. Like there's a sense of every single thing that occurs can be an opportunity for meaning and growth, and it can be a compound, like it can grow on itself. So like all the experience in Auschwitz, he looked at as things in which would build on themselves for more and more experience that and I love that it wasn't even a question. There wasn't the thought of like, if I make it out. It was like, when I make it out, I will talk about these in my lectures, because that's what he's passionate about. He's passionate about being a professor. And so I think that with suffering, if we can just find where things are building on themselves towards our growth, like we will have a profound different experience of suffering. Like suffering is so bearable when we know we're growing. And I love John Henry Newman, and John Henry Newman's like reflection on the Passion. It's called The Psychological Sufferings of Christ. It's like my favorite meditation on the Passion. And he writes about how animals, when they suffer, every moment is like, it's in a sense more bearable because every moment is isolated in of itself. The animal isn't thinking, gosh, this sucks, I've been suffering for 5 minutes, like this is so much worse. It's like the last moment of pain is same to the first moment of pain insofar as experience goes. With the humans, and he goes on to say with Christ to a profound degree, it builds on itself. We attach meaning to suffering, and a lot of the time our tendency is to attach meaning to it in a negative way. So, oh my gosh, like this is I've been going through this for 10 weeks, and now I've been going for 10 months, I've been going for 10 years, like this is horrible. And it's like animals don't experience that. It's just one instance of pain. And then this is besides the point, but I do want to add this, like what he says with God is, since Christ fully enters into every single experience with a depth and with an intentionality that we can't even fathom. The degree of psychological suffering that he would have experienced, knowing the depth of what he was experiencing, because we know the depth and therefore it causes us to suffer. Like, gosh, it is unjust that a human I'd be suffering for 10 minutes. It's been going on for 10 minutes. We know the depth. Like, he knew the depth in a way that we can't even comprehend. So the degree of suffering he would have undergone psychologically is like incomprehensible. But that's besides the point. I think it's really cool. But when it comes to our experience, I think that just highlights like suffering is radically different because we attach meaning to it. And I think I love like the formula, especially ACT therapy, acceptance commitment therapy talks about is is like suffering equals pain plus struggle. And I think a lot of the time, that question of, gosh, this has been going on for 10 minutes is the struggle. You might not be an actual theory is you can't eliminate pain, but you can absolutely eliminate struggle. And so when we enter into this place of...
How so?
When it's acceptance commitment therapy, it's like you start with acceptance. And so you recognize, okay, like I'm suffering right now, and that's what's going on. And I can keep wrestling with it. I can keep causing myself to just suffer more because I'm attaching a meaning to it, like John Henry Newman talks about. Or I can be like, this is what's going on. Like I am experiencing this.
Wow.
I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna just let this be. Like it's called distress tolerance in psychology. I'm gonna make room for it. And like the act talks about breathing into it. So like maybe you're suffering in a part of your body, like breathe into that part. Like imagine you're suffering your leg. Like imagine your breath going into that part, and you're making room for that area. You're letting it be. You're letting the suffering be. And so there's this. You're learning. You're teaching yourself resilience, mental resilience, that you can undergo suffering. You can experience pain, and you can make room for it, and you can let it be. And then there's commitment. So there's like ACT talks about toward movements and away movements. And so we should write down things we value and how we can move toward them. And so commitment, part of ACT therapy is like I accept what I'm experiencing and then I commit to the toward movements. And so all that, I think, to say that when it comes to suffering, when it comes to gratitude amidst suffering, if we see the truth, it's fundamentally true that we suffer most because of the meaning we attach to it. Mm-hmm. That's what makes our suffering so much worse than animals. And that's what made Christ so much worse than ours. We suffer the most when we attach meaning to it. And then if we can learn to accept our state and then to attach a different meaning, in a sense, like Viktor Frankl was in the concentration camps, attaching a meaning of this will bear fruit in my career in the future. Like that's just insane. Like that's his meaning. That's the meaning he was giving it. He accepted it. He didn't say, I got to get out of here. He actually writes about people that some people had dreams. Like someone had a dream, like I'm going to get out, whatever, July 23rd or something like that. And he was like, guys, that's when I'm getting out of here, July 23rd. I know it. And so every day, like, it got closer, and he was like, I'm going to be out July 23rd. July 23rd came. Of course, he didn't get out. It was just a random dream. And he died July 23rd because he lost his reason for living. Like, it's insane, like, tie between mind and spirit. And so, mind and body. And so I think that with Frankl, it's like he could have had that mindset, but he decided to have one amid suffering of, like, there is something valuable for me here. That's the first premise. Mm-hmm. There's something valuable for me here. Second premise is struggling gets me nowhere. It makes things worse. So what is the thing that's valuable for me here? And what does acceptance look for me right now?
Wow.
And then how can I commit to pressing forward? So I think that's like the proper mindset to have. And that takes a zooming out, like perspective. You need to really take a step back. You need to go on a walk and Arthur Brooks talks about, put your phone down, engage your right part of your brain, get bored. I think that's extremely integral to having any chance of cultivating that beautiful, like, life-giving mindset.
I was really struck at what you were kind of reflecting on with Viktor Frankl and this idea of having something like greater and beyond yourself that you're working towards as sort of the grounding, like one of the grounding pillars for meaning.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think you see like the antithetical point of view of that in a couple ways, right? You hear about these stories of these people that get super successful, achieve everything they want, and they like commit suicide or something, or go off the deep end. And it's because like you've gotten to everything you once dreamed of, and then what a surprise, you're still there, empty, wanting more, but like what more is there to want?
Yeah.
And so it just cripples you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's like interest, but I think there's like a flip side of that. Something I found really interesting is when you have something worthy of time and effort, worthy of pursuit, when you have something meaningful, like you said, it no longer becomes a question of if, but like how and when. Yeah. Like I realized like that's been like a huge mindset shift I've experienced in this season of life that I've never had before. It's totally new. I feel like I'm being opened up to a totally new way of living and understanding of what's possible, like literally in every area of my life, like with the Lord, like with business, with relationships, with impact, like all these different environments. And there's something incredible that happens when like you look at it can be something super small. Like I was literally talking to a sophomore I met on campus today, and he's really into like film and storytelling, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, I kind of just feel like I should be in college, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like talking like, like, what are you doing? Like, what do you feel like you're doing now to take advantage of this season where you have more time to develop skills, to kind of move you forward to like, and he's like, he was kind of stuck. Like, he's like, I don't really know, or his idea was like, maybe I should just, like be better at doing my homework, scrolling less, so I have more time to like do filmmaking. So we were like talking about that. And then we got into a conversation about like productivity and stuff. And then I was just like, there's kind of this framework I developed during college that I still use today. Just like to be more productive and accomplish more. Like, it's called time blocking. So it's like when you look at a particular task, instead of like making sort of like a normal to-do list, like these are the things I have to do, right? And then you don't assign a time or how long they take or when you're doing them. You're just like, okay, these are the things I need to get done today. What happens is you will just fill space that you have available to get those things done, which is bad for two reasons. You can never really accurately determine that. So you probably won't accomplish all the things you wanted to today. Or two, you'll take way longer on things that should take a way shorter amount of time just because you don't have alternatives or other things going on. And so you don't have a pressing need to like kind of put these in a certain box. And so like the example I gave him was like, okay, say you're later today, you sit down to do work and, you have to write like a paper. If you tell yourself from 1:15 to 3:45, so 2.5 hours, I'm going to write this 3-page paper from start to finish. That's hard. It's hard to write if you're actually starting from ground zero. I mean, it also depends on what you're writing.
Yeah.
But say like normal assignment, like not impossible. I wouldn't say necessarily easy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of which is good. It's like there's a growth zone. There's a healthy middle of challenging activity that can be accomplished, but can only be accomplished if you attack it with a certain intensity and rigor, which is where growth happens.
Yeah.
And it's how I think you actually accelerate getting things done more efficiently and effectively, and you can accomplish more. But what's really interesting is when you say that to yourself, because ultimately what's happening is like when you're in your planner writing down 1:15 to 3:45, finish and submit 3-page philosophy reflection. What you're doing is you're creating an internal commitment of I will accomplish that task in that time frame.
Yeah.
And so what that does mentally for you is you no longer struggle with the question, is that possible? Or can that be achieved? The only question that remains is how can I get that done? Okay, so maybe it's maybe I need to write. I need to have a different writing style. Maybe I need to my first 45 minutes I outline, and then the next 30 minutes I get quotes, and then the last hour I fill all that in and kind of make it filler so it flows nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. And then you can get it done. Or another thing is like it's so funny. Like I don't know, like a goal I can remember. I think it was like not even a month and a half. It must have been like a month and a half ago. I just took some time to journal kind of in all the different areas of my life, like spiritually, physically, intellectually, in my relationships, in my business, like with content creation, all these sorts of goals. And like one of them with my business-wise was to hit a certain amount of revenue every single month, like recurring revenue every single month in a 6-month time frame. And it's like, I'm a month and a half in and I think I've already hit that. But that was a 6-month goal. Because what happened is it's like, okay, if I want to achieve this goal, I have to do about this every month. And then by the time I get to the end, I'll have achieved that recurring revenue goal. And it's insane. Like, I don't even think I've necessarily done a crazy amount of work. Like, I've been steady, I've been consistent. But just the compounding effect of doing this daily work for 4.5 months has like, that's crazy that just was accomplished in literally a fourth of the time span. Yeah. And now I'm like, wow, that goal can probably be achieved. Like, I can actually probably 3 to 4x that goal in that time span.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And it happened because it was no longer asking the question if, but it's like, I'm going to achieve this. So then the only question comes, okay, month to month, week to week, day to day, what does that require of me in terms of activity? And then things become a lot more feasible. And then I think there's just a certain grit that gets attached to like, this is the thing I'm going after. And that's where meaning comes in.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the question I'm asking right now constantly in this season is, what's worthy of pursuit? Like I was sharing earlier, like I feel like I'm getting a little bit closer each day, each week to like, okay, this feels more like me. This feels like an ideal day, what I really want to be doing, where I'm really providing value to people, where I'm really alive. There's still a lot of misalignment in my life. I still feel like a lot of things are not where I want them to be. But there's definitely a sense of, okay, the things that I do feel called to, or at least I think are worthy of exploring. Like this is one of them. I don't know, maybe I won't be doing a podcast in 6 months, but I really love talking to people and I really love discussing and pulling out principles and ideas and what does that mean for our lives? And some of this feels right. Like some of I love answering and wrestling with these questions and sharing that with other people. I'm like, do I like the tech side of it? Do I like that it's like through the media of like social media and all these things? I was like, probably not. But and I think there's two realities there. One is like you just won't enjoy everything, and like that's the suffering. You can't avoid pain. You can't avoid, like you said, struggle if you accept it. But I think you can actually only accept it, and then even in a deeper sense, become grateful for it if you have something that you're moving towards beyond yourself, which I think is super interesting in a Christian perspective. Because how do we not only understand that in this life of, well, what if I achieve everything I want? I mean, I'm not meant to be miserable and fall to shambles at that point. And it's because, like, what is if we're rightly ordered, what's our principal aim? It's union with God, which is an infinite reality. He's inexhaustible.
Yeah.
I can't search and know all of God. Never, ever. Which is I think is like fascinating. I don't know, BC, interesting to experience it, but what does that mean for eternity? And the fact of like we won't exhaust God. Like we'll just keep discovering and falling deeper in love and coming to a deeper knowledge of Him over and over and over. And that will be our meaning. Like that will be our highest principal aim, is like union with God, relationship with Him, which is still our principal aim now.
Yeah, and I think it becomes clear to us that's our principal aim when we achieve the things we want, and there's a lack of satisfaction. Like, there's this idea that it's temptation for me to give into, of like, until I'm in my final vocation.
Yeah, right.
I can't be settled and stable.
Yeah, right.
But I know dang well, like, I mean, like, I've lived a long enough life, even though it's been a short one, to know that, once I'm married with kids and a full-time, Catholic therapist, living the life, whatever, I know I'm not going to be like, now I can finally settle in.
Yeah, right.
Only will I be able to do that when I know, like I said, like, where love begins, finitude ends. Like, we only find satisfaction when we know what we're delighting in is eternal. We find true satisfaction when we know what we're delighting in is eternal. And so I think that when it comes to that life and getting what we want in life, overcoming our fears, achieving success, I think that we won't be satisfied until we are aware of like the eternality to our experience and of our experience. And I think that is ultimately rooted in love. And it's also nice as my spiritual director once said, I was asking him, like, do you think in heaven, like, I was like, I just converted. And I was like asking him, like, do you think in heaven, like, you can grow? Or you think that it's like you're at a fixed point? And he was like, I don't know. But he said, I think that it'd be in line with humanity to be progressing. Like, we as humans, we desire and yearn for a pursuit and a progress. And I think that's delightful that we can live in that in this life. If I can be married, what I want, have my kids, be living where I want to live, providing, have an incredible marriage, right? If I can have all those things, but if I can also know that I'm in the pursuit of love and eternality, like, then I think that I think I can have a reasonable sense of happiness. And I think that like a very reasonable sense of meaning and contentment and gratitude, and not an uneasiness or an antsy demeanor where I need to achieve more. But no, if that one facet isn't there, if that facet of delighting the progress I'm making towards love and eternity isn't there, then I think that I know I won't be like able to actually settle in. And if that's true, which it is, then I can start to settle in now, because I can start to live in that now. And that's like where that's that shift. If that's true, it's true now. And so it's like that's where that shift really has happened for me in the context of this talk from Arthur Brooks, and just in the context of my life of this semester. It's been one of like, if that is true, which it is, then how can I invest now in love and in eternity, and begin to settle in, like find my settlement, my stability there, because I know that's what will like carry me in the future too. And so that's kind of, I think, I don't know, that's kind of what I was just thinking about.
I think that's really good, because that's something I'm experiencing in my life now too. What I actually enjoy the most isn't necessarily the things I'm doing per se, but the reality of struggle and growth within it. So it's not like, I guess in terms of what I'm doing for work, it's not that there's this overwhelming satisfaction of like, I'm running and creating a Catholic magazine in Steubenville, Ohio. What's more satisfying is like, okay, I'm meeting more businesses, I'm getting more connected in the local community, and I'm like acquiring relationships. I'm developing relationships. I'm working with more people, and I'm going to connect people. If I've hit that point with my business, if I just know enough people, I'm like, oh, I can see in my network a mutually beneficial relationship, so let me put you in contact with each other. And I really enjoy that. I'm also seeing like it's not as much the idea of actually having a final product, but it's like, okay, like new month coming up. What are we going to do for content? Who am I going to ask to write articles? It's like the process of discovery and the process of like follow up and accumulation and drawing together that I think is actually the most lively. Because I felt that, like, I remember, especially when I started back in June, there was this whole thing. Like, what drove me the most is like, can I get this thing to exist? Like, it does. Like, the magazine doesn't exist. I have to get a certain amount of businesses to agree to advertise before that happens. Like, it was kind of like a race.
Yeah.
Of like, all right, is it gonna happen? Can we make it happen? And then it did. And I remember like this like huge deflation for like a week, like 2 weeks. I was just like so unmotivated. I was like, okay, great, it exists now. Like, what am I?
Yeah.
You know, like, because like money is definitely not a primary motivator for me. So I was like, okay, like it exists now. Well, like what then? You know, and so I've had to go through sort of iterations of the okay, what next? Okay, what next? But I love what you said, and it's really challenging to me. And I think I need to actually like spend some time just thinking and praying about it because it's such against my natural tendency of like finding the contentment, and that's just a reality of life, that cycle of wanting to achieve. So perhaps I can just be content in that now, you know, and find satisfaction not as much in the fact of what I'm doing, you know, per se objectively, but that I'm whatever I'm doing, that I'm making progress. And so it's like even for this podcast, it's like, yeah, my 57 subscribers and my, you know, like average 25 views or whatever. You know, it's like I'm not here for the numbers, but there's something exciting of even when you come over to it, it's like, okay, we're shooting in the living room. Like, how do I do lighting? How do I do setup? Is sound going to be okay? And it's the process of getting to answer those questions. Like, okay, I'm learning a little bit more, or I have a little bit more idea of what goes into these, or okay, like when I go into post production, I like want to edit and create clips and, you know, learning how to do that better. And it's just like the process of development more than of actually achieving end state and an end state that's satisfying. So yeah, I hope there's growth in heaven.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And I think it makes a lot of sense there would be based on what we just talked about. But I don't know, I feel like there's still like this prevailing question I feel like underneath everything we're talking about that I'm wrestling with, and it kind of grieves me, I think is the right word. Like I'm grieved by it of like why can't there just be something that's enough? Like why can't I get to a certain mode of existing where I'm just like, I don't want more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know why the pain that like beauty causes like struck me right when you said that. Because it grieves, but it's also like I'm thinking of the pain of beauty. Like I don't know if you've ever read Severe Mercy.
Mm-mm.
It's an incredible book. And it's Sheldon Vonnegut. I mean, I keep going the whole thing on that, but basically him and his wife, they met when they were 15, fell in love, have one of the most like beautiful love relationships I've ever read. They were pagan atheists, but their religion was literally their love. Like it was, they had ways in which they and all with all these unknown Christian undertones of like the world is a threat to love. So how can we protect our love from the world? Like all these things.
Wow.
But this like beautiful, like thriving, loving relationship as atheists. And because they saw the value of love and they almost like they literally treated love like we Christians should treat love.
Wow.
But they idolized it a bit because they didn't have God. But it was very profound. And then it's a crazy story. Went to Oxford, met C.S. Lewis, converted through relationship with C.S. Lewis. And then she ends up dying around the same time C.S. Lewis's wife dies. And C.S. Lewis and him had this like relationship together. But that's the context of the book. But early in the book, they knew one of their first conversations, like their first date, was like, have you ever like felt the pain of beauty? Like, have you ever been like wounded by beauty? And they were both talking because they're both poets and very like oriented towards beauty. And they were talking about how their different times when they were younger. And he was mentioning when he was like younger and he looked out and there's a tree. There was like, I might be a little wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it was like icy tree, like kind of ice dripping off it, the sun shining through onto the tree, and there was just like this this like beauty, invigorating, but it hurt because you couldn't, like, it was so like powerful and touching, but there was not almost an actualization of what you truly desired. Like you want to be consumed by it. You want to be lost like by the beauty. Like Luke always quotes. Shoot, I forget his name. He had like a fake name. He's not actually. This he is Pseudo-Dionysus.
Yeah.
And I think it's him who says like, why would you? Like you can't reach into the abyss of God and pull out. So you ought to cast yourself entirely into the abyss. And there's a sense in which like we want that. We want to be lost in that beauty, and it hurts us because we can't. And I think I kind of like I was feeling that when you said that, like it grieves you that I can't be fully satisfied, and it is grieving, but at the same time, like I wouldn't want a life in which beauty didn't wound me, or like the desire for fullness and actualization didn't wound me, because it's like it's a wound of love, like it's a sweet wound, and the big thing that they write about in Secret Mercy is that we can't have the highs without the lows.
Yeah.
So they would always say highs and lows, like when they were together. There's a sense in which, like, I don't know, like, would you want it? Would you want to just stop and be like fully satisfied? I think about that at times because I'm just like I don't know if that's proper to my humanity. I don't know if I would actually not want. I don't know if I'd want to be casted. I do. It hurts because I can't be. But what I want, the mountains' beauty when I'm on the peak, to actually be enough, or what I want it to like cause me to want to go to the heights, to go higher. Is like that's because that's what I experience. Like what I wanted to wound me more and more, and I think that like this is where you get to the contemplatives and the writings of like God comes and he goes, and he comes and he goes, and the presence and the love and the beauty wounds, and it wounds and it wounds, and the wound becomes like so deep and so big, but so sweet, and it makes us unable to live like without him, because like when we've been wounded by him, it's like only him who can come and satisfy. But that satisfaction experience for a moment causes a deeper wound. Like and that's kind of like I guess what we're talking about is like, is it proper to humanity? I think it is, because if you read the contemplative tradition, if every time God comes, it causes a deeper wound that causes us to yearn more, like that we would be like a thirst incarnate, as like the saints write about, it seems that it wouldn't make sense. My point is like I feel like you would just be more satisfied every time you came, you'd be more content, but you actually become less content every time. Like you want more of him, Eventually it's like it pains, not in a suicidal way at all, but it pains John of the Cross, it pains Teresa of Avila to be alive, because they just want to be casted into the abyss of God. So I do get what you're saying about the grieving, but I also sometimes like when I get hit with that grieving, sometimes I love the taste of it, because sometimes I'm like that's my drive in life. Like that longing for the fullness and satisfaction is my drive. And I do think in heaven, experiencing the beatific vision, there would be a fullness of contentment in every moment, but I think that we would still progress. I think that like there would be a fullness. There has to be. Mm-hmm. We're experiencing the fullness of God face to face. So in every moment, even if there can be moments in heaven and eternity, I can't really speak to it, but like the language. But I think that would be like a contentment every moment. But I do think there would be a natural progression forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love that concept of like, because it's when you felt it, you felt it. Like the wound of beauty.
Yes.
Or even in prayer, like the wound of his love and presence. Like it hurts, but it's sweet, and you just want more. Like it's like
I love that description of, because I've experienced that in different ways, and I know exactly what you mean of like the sweetness of the cross. Like it's a really odd paradoxical thing of it hurts like no other, but it's also sweet like no other. So you immediately want it to stop, but you never want it to end all at the same time. And I think you're right. I think there's like a basic level. I think there's like a couple layers to this, but the most basic one is what you talked about of, right, without contrast, you never have appreciation. Like if there's no sucky parts of life, there's no enjoyable parts of life.
Yeah.
You know, if there's not a sense of struggle, doubt, of weakness, then there's not a sense of strength and victory and triumph. Yeah. Like if everything's easy all the time, you don't have to struggle at all. Just kind of blah. Yeah. It's like, okay, great, I put my mind to something and I get it. Like that one. Mm-hmm. But it's like precisely the question of like, like, can it happen?
And that was Arthur Brooks' big point of like, he writes about struggle being integral to the sense of purpose and meaning and satisfaction, especially.
Actually, did he speak about that, or is that in?
Yeah, I don't know if you might have to take my foot out, but I took a note on it. I think it just says like struggle is utterly necessary when it comes to. He said, so he says enjoyment something pleasurable done with those you love in a memorable way. Satisfaction is when you work hard for something, you get it. So satisfaction being like, yeah, there is this sense in which like you have to work hard. I very emphasize you need to struggle. Like you can't experience satisfaction if you haven't worked hard. You like said exactly what you're saying. And then for meaning, I said we can't go 10 minutes without meaning, but we can go very long without enjoyment and satisfaction. And then the three things of questions for meanings: why do things happen the way they do? So coherence, what you want to do with your life. You need to know you're making progress, he said. And so like that's your purpose. That's what you want to do with your life is your purpose, and you need to know you're making progress towards it. And then why your life matters, significance. So it's coherence, purpose, and significance. And within purpose, there's a sense in which making progress against the struggle that he was like getting at. And I think that's what like that's why Viktor Frankl was able to do that, because he knew he was making progress. Like which is crazy. Like in the concentration camps, like he knew he was progressing in his psychological depth and understanding. And
that's fascinating.
And it's like I think that's really where meaning come like you can't be taken down. Like that's why the saints just could not be stopped, because everything was permeated with meaning. And I think that's like getting. I think you can't get to that point without prayer, especially. But I also think engaging the right part of your brain. Like you need, like he talks about, but you need gratitude. You need to be reading like philosophical works. You need this. You need to be reading things. Like you ever read like a philosophical work and truth. Like I've been reading like books at my bedtimes, and like the truth hits me so hard that I'm just like, well, I just like sit back and just like, oh my gosh, and it just feels so good. That feeling, like, and I think that I don't know, and those come the most when I'm really struggling to understand something, and it just like hits. Yeah, you know, if I wasn't struggling as much, like and so I don't know. I think another the question is like, can we be wounded by beauty? Can we be wounded by love if there isn't this needy thirsting for it, you know? And I think a lot of us aren't in touch with our needy thirst for beauty and love. And he talks about that too, actually. He writes about how remember he spoke about how we need beauty. It's one of the number one things. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know where I was going with all that. I think of it. I forget.
I think we're actually like afraid to admit our thirst and our desire. Like this is something I've been learning in my life, and it's really challenge. It's one of the most challenging and growing things in my life is starting within myself, being brutally honest, what I like, what I don't like, what I want, what I don't want, and not compromising. And then doing that with other people. And it's like this morning, literally while we're doing this podcast today, I was like, okay, I have this work off of week, this week of work off, and I'd like to record a couple of podcasts, and the weekend was busy, so I texted a couple people, but they didn't respond to me, or we couldn't set anything up for today. So it was like, ideally, what I genuinely, blatantly want is I would love to find someone to record something with today, because that'll allow me to use my time off throughout the week. And so I called you, because I'd seen you texting me back, and you literally told me, it's like, hey, today's pretty busy, I have something going on tomorrow. Like, it wasn't impossible. Like, if you, like, you know, if you're like, hey, man, like, I really got a couple things I super need to take care of, I would have been like, okay. But because of, like, the security I have in our relationship, I could be like, hey, man, like, I know this is a total inconvenience for you, and this is really, like, one-sided in favoring me. But this is what I want, and I would greatly appreciate it. Like, would you be willing to do that for me? And here we are. I can get coffee and some biscotti out of it and stuff. Hopefully it's not totally one-sided. But why I think that's so important is, like, going to the question of, like, why are most people out of touch? It's so, like, I was actually, as I was on the phone with you this morning, I was talking to another friend. I was going in my car, and she had driven up, so we were just talking, and then you called, so I picked it up. But we were talking after me, and you hung up, just about this, and I was telling her, I was like, one thing I've realized in this season of life is, like, life moves so quickly, and there's just no time to waste it on things that don't actually align with who we are. And a separate strain of that conversation is like, we need to waste time with God, and there's something that happens in boredom and putting aside productivity, and that's another conversation. That's a really important facet of human flourishing. But I want to draw back to, like, when we're actually working, when we're actually in relationship, when we're actually stewarding creation. I've just noticed, like, why am I going to live someone else's life? Like, why am I going to pretend and, like, because, like, if I'm actually really honest with me, like, when I compromise or when I don't fully voice my opinion, it's because I'm either probably out of fear or trying to people please, or I actually don't carry enough self-respect and confidence and conviction in who I am and what I believe, which none of those three things are good. And that's what I mean is that I've been learning it more in this, like even like it was kind of hard for me, like this week, like the week I'm taking off for work, there was something that was like kind of gnawing at me of, which was more just like I'm uncomfortable with myself. Again, I am under tax law. It's like I'm a 1099 independent contractor, so I have every right to create my own schedule. Like I want to work today, I want to not, I want to work at this time versus that. And my company's awesome. It's like they're never like asking me to do stuff I don't want. But there was part of me that was like weird and like calling my regional advisor, like, hey man, just so you know, like was really happy with how my month went, and I'm just gonna I have a couple more deals that are lined up, but I'm just gonna wait for next month to kind of close those up. So I'm gonna take next week off. And there was end call, but there was a part of me that was like that didn't want to do that, not because I like that's 100% what I wanted to do. I was like, no, I don't think it makes sense to work anymore for this coming month. Just wait till next month to pick up some of that stuff. But there's this idea of like people pleasing or looking like some type of person or type of worker, and then I was like, I'm 100% doing that for someone else.
Yeah.
Which is like, why am I doing that? And so like why I think like why do we struggle to be struck by beauty? Why do we struggle to live in that place? I think it's because it's really uncomfortable. It's really, really naked. It's really vulnerable and real. And there's nothing flowery about it. It's like, here I am. And there's only there's one of two responses, yes or no. Like acceptance or denial. And I think it's interesting, like in the context of what we were talking about meaning, like the need for something outside of ourselves, the need of progressing onward. I think it's like the only it was really wonderful. Kind of I got to do like a public speaking twice last week, and I just forgot how much I haven't done it in a while. And I forgot how much I come alive, how much I love it. I really feel myself in two different talks, but one of them I got to give was on confrontation. I get to speak to all the RAs, like the resident assistants on campus, and just speaking about like how to deal when other students that are peers like don't like you, and dealing with healthy confrontation and practical tips of going about it. And as I was like reflecting and giving that talk, and like one of the main points I made is like I called it like acknowledge the elephant and swallow the pill. And like the reality is like you just have to say like, hey man, like I want to talk, and this is what I want to talk about, and here's what I want to talk about it. And like that needs to be the first thing you say, because it just sets the framework. But then also what it does is it opens up to people being like, I don't want to talk right now, or I don't want to go there, or I'm not interested, or even if they like engage a conversation, you might not find like middle ground, you might not find alignment, and those are all difficult because like you explicitly said what you were trying to do and you got rejected, and like that's hard. But then on the other end, like forget about the times of the denial or rejection, but it's like when you do that and you're accepted, like what that does for you in terms of growth and grounding, because like ultimately like, that's all we want. Like I want someone to look at me and be like, Michael, you're enough. Like you are desirable. You are good as you are. And then to also encourage me from that place. And you can become even greater. Yeah. There's still more on the table for you. Yeah. And I love you enough to say, I want you to go after it. And like, I mean, I'm sure I can look back, like certain friendships or moments or relationships and like particular conversations, like those moments where that was birthed in me of like, man, like I feel like I could go conquer the world because someone believed in me. Like, I mean, I even, if we weren't recording on my phone, I'd pull it up, but like I got this text from my mom like 2 days ago, and I was just so moved by it. Actually, I texted my family group chat like, new podcast, blah, blah, blah. So like my parents are #1 fans. Let's go. Let's go. But she watched the whole thing, like this podcast with Dr. Silva, and she's like, wow, Michael, like I watch a lot of podcasts and like was really, really impressed just like with your questioning and like the flow and everything was like, she's like, I see like a lot of elements I see in like the podcast, like I really, really like. Or like my dad, he left me a voicemail on Saturday morning. It's like right when I got a mass, I saw I had a missed call and I listened. It was like a minute and a half long, and it was just him praising me, like, wow, like Michael, like you have a really incredible ability to like question and listen and really bring things out of people And like I already I know that about myself, and I'm confident that's one of my skills and one of the things I really enjoy. But it was just like for someone, especially someone so close with my dad, to be like I see that and I bless you in that time. Was just like I was in cloud nine.
Yeah.
Just like for a few hours because of that. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, does that change the fact that this is my fourth one that I'm going to publish? Does it change the fact that I have freaking 56 subscribers? I don't even know if I'm going to be doing this long term. I don't know if there's any substantial means to this. No, but man, does it empower and encourage me to keep going.
Yeah.
Like there's something here, and I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
But I know that there's something beyond myself, and I just think for the first time in my life, I'm getting to be brutally honest with myself and brutally honest with others. And I'm in the part of the process where it's still really, really painful. Because of that, it's a lot of shedding. Nothing, not bad blood, not necessarily negative, not burn bridges, confrontation like that. But it's I really feel I want to go there, and people I used to spend time with, old circles, old friend groups, old colleagues, old peers, don't. And so it's okay, do I stay just because it's familiar, so there's a sense of comfortable, but then I give up the life I feel I might be made for and the man I'm supposed to become? Or do I throw myself into the abyss? I have no idea what's out there. But something, and I believe it's something good, is calling from the deep. Yeah. And it's inviting me, and I'm I have no idea what's out there. I have no idea how to get there.
Yeah.
But I think I'm supposed to go there. Yeah. So it's okay, how do I get there? What do I need to put in my backpack? What tools do I need? What's the conditioning? How do I start taking my journey? And again, it's still in the part of the process where it's just a lot of agony and frustration and confusion being stripped right now. But we were talking about, agony always precedes ecstasy. To the degree that we suffer is the degree that we will rejoice. We need lows so that we can experience highs. And I think that's why we're afraid of beauty and to be wounded by it is it actually, this is something a reflection I had on the cross 2 years ago. The image of the cross, it demands something of us. The only proper response to God becoming man, getting brutalized, rejected, mocked, naked upon a cross, saying, I give myself to you. The only proper response is to do the same thing back to him. Yeah. There's no appreciate it, man. Here's an hour on Sundays. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for doing that for me. We just have that. We hear that as a response, and we're just ugh, no. That is not how you respond to that. We just have an intuition about that. Of when there's a fullness given, it's still free. It doesn't force, but the invitation is for a full reciprocation.
Yeah, Luigi Giussani, do you know this? He's a priest, phenomenologist, teacher. He's buddies with Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict. He says that it's my favorite definition of love. He says that to love is to recognize the presence of another and to let the demands that presence makes upon you come upon you. So to love is to recognize the presence of another and then let the demands that recognition makes come upon you. So it's if I recognize you're before me, Michael, made in the image and likeness of God, my brother in Christ, a human with infinite dignity, a man who's loved me well. If I really recognize your presence in its whole, it starts to make demands. You deserve my respect, therefore. You deserve to be treated like dignity. You deserve reciprocity of love. All these things, it starts to make demands upon me. And to love is to let those demands come and to say yes. And so it's and it's very highlighted in a relationship because you're recognizing the presence of this woman before you, not just as this woman you're in love with and sexually attracted to, but also as your sister. Also, my sister, my bride, yes. A daughter of the Father, you're recognizing her presence in its whole. And then the demands that it makes upon you are just incomprehensible. And then not just that, you meet her father, you meet her brothers, you meet her friends. She is also a daughter. She's also a sister. She's all these things to all these people. This is her in her whole. Yes. And then it's so what does that demand of me? Wow. And to love is to say yes to those demands. And that's kind of I feel what you're getting at with the cross. Mm-hmm. It's just such a good definition of love. It's it really puts in perspective what love is and what it does. Yeah. And then with children too, of course. You have a child, the demands are unfathomable. But
I think that's a great place to end. Well, this has been another episode of Living the Lay Life. Get out there, Tigers. Go share them with the world. Peace.